more suitable for the older child. These programs should be previewed before use with a class.
Hello, well this is the last programme in our series and we're going to have a look at the issues that young people have to face if they consider having sex with their partner. Now you may remember that the first 6 programmes of the series were about the loving relationship that can be enjoyed in marriage. But last week we considered the kind of situation which some young people might have to face. You remember the 2 young people playing the parts of Jim and Claire? They'd been going out together for some time. Jim wanted to make love with Claire. Claire felt that, well, she wasn't ready for sex yet, but didn't feel that she could explain this to Jim without hurting him. Because she hadn't definitely said no, Jim thought that he could persuade her. Claire got upset, so did Jim. So, being in love when you're so young is a strain. Against the desire to make love, of course, is always the fear of the risks involved. Obviously, one of the risks is an unwanted pregnancy. And you don't need me to tell you that sexual intercourse is the first step towards having a baby. Contraceptives can be used, but it would seem that many young people find the idea of buying and using a contraceptive rather embarrassing.
Excuse me.
Hello? Yes?
I want some cotton wool, please.
Of course. Will there be anything else?
Yeah. Have you got a packet of tissues, please?
Man-sized tissues. Is that all?
Well, they made that into a joke, didn't they? But this isn't a joke. Did you know that more than 70,000 unmarried women become pregnant every year in Britain? So perhaps there's an argument for not being embarrassed. Is it a middle-aged thing that we middle-aged people think that teenagers are embarrassed, or really have we all got that all wrong? Nick?
I don't think we should be embarrassed, because if you're mature enough to be thinking about having sex, you should also be responsible enough to think about using a contraceptive.
No, but looking at it realistically, how many people of our age are mature enough to have sex? We're not. They just do it. And so we're not mature enough to have sex, so how can we be mature enough to go into a chemist and not be embarrassed about buying contraception?
So, but surely you're old enough to link the fact that if you have sex with someone, you're going to have a baby, and you don't want to be saddled with a baby at the age of 17.
People don't think
Rob?
Yeah, I think you'd be rather embarrassed to walk into a shop, a chemist, and ask for a packet of condoms. You'll feel really ashamed, like if your parents are standing up there looking at you going, no, it's bad, you know. You just feel really ashamed and guilty about doing it.
So although they were making fun of that, it does happen.
Yeah.
But I think the point is that it's because of everyone's attitude to kind of sex and contraceptions and everything. It's kind of strange kind of stigma attached to it all. And
Why?
that kind of, I don't know, but it just is, isn't it?
Do you think, Mark, it's always the boy's responsibility to have the condom?
I think it should be both the responsibility of both the people, because it's up to themselves if they want to be safe or not.
Jason?
It's up to both of them, I believe, yeah. Because
Does it work like that, though?
Well, unfortunately it doesn't, because obviously the boy's going to feel that it's the girl's responsibility and the girl's going to feel it's the boy's responsibility. But then I feel that if you're in a relationship, obviously you've got to talk about that sort of thing first and then organise it between yourselves.
A lot of men, they don't come straight forward and say, are you on the pill? They say, are you, and they never actually say it. And if a girl says, yes, I am on the pill, the inner feeling in her is like, my God, he might think, if I'm already on the pill, he might think, God, I've done it like loads of times before. So she feels embarrassed and feels really loose. And he's in an awkward position. It is an awkward situation at our age.
It's not easy, is it?
No.
I mean, are you all unanimous in that? Actually, the business of growing from teenage to full sexual maturity is difficult. Yeah. That's a unanimous 100% there. Well, of course, there's the other big problem of sexually transmitted diseases. And, of course, you're more at risk the more sexual partners you have. And at the moment, everyone is deeply concerned about AIDS.
Do you fancy coming back to my place?
Well, advertisements like this have to be made because although young people are worried about AIDS, they don't know enough about it. Gemma?
I think, well, going back to contraception as well, when it's the first time, you think, oh, it can never happen to me, it's just the first time. It won't happen to me, it always happens to other people. But unfortunately, it isn't like that. People have got to come around to the way of thinking that it can happen to them and they do have to take precautions for it.
But that's the right answer, but is it reality? Colin?
I feel AIDS is more a talking point now. Else. People talk about it, but they don't take it seriously themselves, which...
Teenagers don't take it
Teenagers,
No, but how many teenagers have been in the paper of dying of AIDS? It's been like older people. That's why teenagers aren't taking it seriously, because nobody knows of 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds that have died of AIDS yet.
Sarah?
Yeah, I'd just like to say I agree with that. Until you know somebody personally who's actually died of AIDS or who has AIDS, it really strikes home.
What do you think, Caroline?
I think if you ask someone if they have AIDS, they might lie to you because they might be ashamed that they have it and that they might have slept around people, but that might not be the case.
Jenny?
To be quite honest, I don't think teenagers think about AIDS in relation to partners of their own age. Now, if I were a girl and I was sleeping with a man who were older, I would think about it. But if I was sleeping with someone of my own age, it would not cross my mind, quite honestly.
Isn't that being an ostrich? Isn't that head in the sand?
Well, it's just the general feeling. I mean, it's true. The only thing that worries most teenagers is pregnancy. It is not... AIDS really doesn't cross their minds in partners of their own age.
What about VD and things like that? I mean, does that occur to you? Ashley?
But people really don't know much about other forms of VD and whatnot with AIDS, because everyone's just being told about AIDS, and not many people really know anything about any of the other ones.
You can correct me if I'm wrong, but I just get the general impression that you think that, and you're a typical group, I mean, you're very articulate, but you're a typical group of teenage, that AIDS will happen, but not to you lot. General feeling?
Yeah.
Well, what we heard in that discussion, growing up to become a responsible adult, it's not as easy as it sounds. I'm going to talk to you, Jill, then to you, from the Family Planning Association. Let's talk about this, because they sounded, I hope you don't mind me saying this, they sounded very low-key over the threat of AIDS. Now, does that surprise you, especially bearing in mind all the advertising, warning us about it?
It doesn't surprise me at all.
Really?
No, really, Sarah. Most of the young people that I'm meeting aren't really taking it in. They aren't really taking it on board at all. They're saying it's not going to happen to me. It's just like learning to cross the road when you were younger. You know, you learn a few rules and then after that you dodge the traffic. And that's what young people are doing at the moment. They're just pretending it's not happening in some way and not really taking notice.
Well, that is almost what they've admitted, but they know themselves, that you said it, didn't you, over there? They said they're putting their heads in the sands. Now, what can people do to help them become aware of the threat?
I think we've got to do more talking. I think the information is around, but it's actually talking about it. And we are talking about sex, remember? And this disease is passed on by sex. And it's very difficult to talk about sex and sexuality. It's not easy. And we need more practice at that, all of us, not just young people, but the adults, the teachers, the parents, all of us need more practice. And the only way we can do that is by actually doing it and starting it.
There was one girl over there, though, who said, well, I'm never, none of the talking, anything is going to impinge on me until I know someone who has suffered. Now, do you think that is fair, that we can wait that long?
Well, if we all wait until we know somebody who's dying of AIDS, then it's going to be a very, very serious situation. So I hope that we're not going to do that, and I hope that in the next few years we will have worked that out and worked out ways of getting people prepared for it. Because the youngsters who are 13 and 14 now are the ones in 5 or 6 years' time who may be those people who everybody knows somebody that's dying of it, and that's very serious.
Ashley mentioned sexually transmitted diseases and said, I mean, he was very honest, he said he didn't know very much about them. Now, is it still important when people are worried about AIDS to be worried about other sexually transmitted diseases?
Absolutely. I mean, there's still very, very common sexually transmitted diseases. There's lots of them. They are all curable as such. But you have got to get yourself to a clinic or a doctor to get cured.
Which is embarrassing, isn't it?
It is embarrassing and it is hard. But there are sexually transmitted diseases clinics in every area, and you can go and it's always private.
If you don't get them cured, what are the after effects?
Well, it depends on which there are. There are many of them. And some of them do have extremely serious consequences. One of which is it could stop you from having babies. And that may be a choice that some people want to have later on.
maybe you'll bite my head off, but I remember when I was a teenager, it's a very selfish period, isn't it? You start, I mean, you're flexing your muscles and you'll start going out with boys, or in the other case, girls. You don't realise the strain it puts on a family, do you?
No, I don't think you do. I don't think you do. And I think it is hard. And I think many young people know what they're doing too. They know that they're hurting the people around them. And I can see some of the reactions here, that it's easy to throw something awful at the people that you love, and then the moment you see how they've reacted to it, it's hurtful. But it's also hard to come down on it and say, I'm sorry and whatever. And it's all part of growing up. And unfortunately, the adults, the teachers and the parents sometimes forget that's what you're doing, and they get hurt and angry and cross as well.
What surprised me, nattering there, was that nobody actually mentioned the sexual drive, which is terribly important, isn't it, for many reasons. It's very natural, but nobody actually said, well, that is something that worries me.
Well, it is rather private, Sarah.
It's important to talk about it.
Yes, it's very important to talk about it, and that nearly all of us have sexual drive, and at different times in life it can be very strong. And it would be difficult to actually be on the telly and say, yeah, I'm thinking about it all the time. And I have had young people say that to me. And I remember as a youngster myself thinking, when will I ever think about anything else ever again? And so during periods of people's lives, they do think about it a lot. And that is fine. Think about it, enjoy the thoughts, enjoy the fantasies. And even if you want to help yourself, to relieve yourself, then many, many people masturbate and feel very happy about that. And it gives your body pleasure and can relieve any tensions. But don't consider starting a sexual relationship just for that. Wait until you're ready, and wait until you're with somebody that you want to be with.
There's nothing wrong with waiting until you're much older to have sex. Indeed, many teenagers decide to do just that. Do you remember Claire saying that she'd rather wait?
I do love you, I do, but I just don't think it's right for me just now. I just feel that this is not the right time for me to make that big step.
Is there anything else you'd like to mention, Jill?
Yeah, two things. One is a legal aspect, that it is illegal for a boy or a man to have sex with a girl when she's under 16.
Under 16?
Under 16, yeah. And the second thing is alcohol.
Yes, one doesn't want to have any regrets in the morning. Jill, thank you for talking that through with me. Well, what are these risks that we have been running through there? Let's just look at them. We've been talking about unwanted pregnancy, sexually transmitted diseases, one's reputation, family relationships, and a sexual drive. Well, it's quite a lot to think about, isn't it? But I don't want to leave you feeling, oh, it's all gloom and doom. It certainly isn't. Relationships with girlfriends and boyfriends, when you're ready, as Jill was saying, when you're ready, they can be very happy and very satisfying experiences, but they don't need to involve sexual intercourse. There's nothing wrong at all with waiting until you're much older to have sex. Indeed, many teenagers decide to do just that. Well, what most of us really hope for, I suppose, in the long term, is to make the right decisions which will lead on to a loving, a healthy, and a happy relationship with one special person. And then together, you'll be able to make decisions about your lives, and then one day, you might start a family of your own. So, take your time, and the very best of luck.